Hey everyone, and welcome to Steady Astro. Today I wanted to cover just a couple lesser known tips that I've been using in PixInsight that weren't very intuitive. The first has to deal with swap directories. It's not very intuitive, but for those of us running SSDs or NVMe drives, duplicating our swap directory makes a big difference. This is a benchmark I ran with just one swap directory. I had 1100 megabytes per second transfer rate in the benchmark. For me, duplicating it 6 times maxed out my benchmark, and I was able to get just under 3500 megabytes per second transfers, about 3 times improvement in the benchmark. So if you have not done this yet, I highly recommend duplicating your directory in there if you have an SSD or NVMe drive. Again, this could be found under Edit, Global Preferences, and then under Directories and Network. Another issue I ran across was long file names getting generated during the stacking process with weighted batch preprocessing. To get around this, you can have Windows use long file names, and that prevented me from having errors during the local normalization process. If you go into the registry editor, under HKey Local Machine, System, Current Control Set, Control, and then down to File System, there's one that's called Long Paths Enabled. If you double click that and set the value to 1 and reboot your computer, the long file names will no longer be an issue. The next tip is in the weighted batch preprocessing script. It has to do with the pedestal setting. This actually raises the floor of the black point in the processing steps internally, such that if the calculation comes up with a small negative value, it would normally clip that up to 0. What this does is add a small value at the bottom after the math is done during the stacking process. This actually will save a lot of data, especially if you are shooting narrowband and doing dark subtraction, which may be getting clipped at the extreme black end of your images. It was quite startling to me how much of the data was getting clipped, probably around 3 to 5% of the pixels after dark subtraction. I recommend some low value here. I use 250. You can experiment around with that, but 250 seems a good value, especially for my narrowband stacking. Another one in WBPP was where to find how to do this cosmetic correction item here. That is also not very intuitive. What you need to do is go into Processes, Cosmetic Correction. I use Auto Detect Hot Sigma of 3 that will essentially correct any pixel that is 3 standard deviations higher than the surrounding pixel. So these would be hot pixels that are not subtracted during dark subtraction. You are going to just drag that process off. You can name it whatever you want. I have named mine up here Cosmetic Correction. And then the next time you start weighted batch preprocessing, it will be in the drop down as a cosmetic correction template to utilize. And there was the new process that I dragged off. The last 2 are just be sure to save your icons when you're done. You can just highlight them, save the selected icons, and I save them right to my desktop and just click that icon every time I open PixInsight to open PixInsight, and it pulls up all my icons for me. The last one, which is just a great time saver, is you can double click the PixInsight background to open a file. And that I thought was just really neat when I saw it and was very helpful. Thanks everyone. I hope you liked the tips. Please like and subscribe.